Hello everyone, welcome to Yashoda Hospital's online segment, the Health Talk session. We are here today to discuss about various viral illness and precautions to be taken. I'm Dr. Lakshmi and today we have with us Senior Consultant Physician from Yashoda Hospital's Somajigoda. Welcome sir.
I'm Dr. Shashi Kiran, Consultant Senior Physician with Yashoda Hospital, Somajigoda. I've been working with this hospital for the last 15 years.
That's wonderful sir. So sir, what made you choose this field? What made you become a doctor basically?
Dr. Lakshmi, I come from a family of doctors. My mother has been a gynecologist in Hyderabad, senior practicing gynecologist in Hyderabad for almost now 30 to 40 years. And I used to watch her while growing up, see the dedication that she had and hours that she used to spend all through. We used to miss her during childhood, but I was always amazed at the dedication that she had. She used to work almost 16 to 18 hours in a day, and that is what actually capitulated me into medicine, and she's always been my idol since my childhood.
So sir, you just mentioned that you come from a family of doctors and you grew up seeing your mother being very busy and spending less time. So what were your early childhood memories like? Did you still wanted to become a doctor looking at your mother being very busy?
Yeah, during my early days as a kid, when probably we need the mother most, we used to really miss her because most of the time she was in the hospital. But as we grew older, we began to understand the passion that she had for the profession and why she used to miss the family and the growing kids and be there. She used to take care of her patients, and most of the time, morning till night, she was in the hospital. And probably as a kid, I used to crib because I used to miss a mother, as every kid does. But as I grew older, probably from the 7th standard onwards, after that, I began to comprehend that the passion that she had for her patients and the profession was really amazing. And when I came into plus 2, I chose this stream because I wanted to be like her, work like her, and take care of people like as she does.
That's great to know. So on similar notes, would you recommend your children to become doctors or choose this field?
I will leave it to them. If it is their choice, yeah, definitely I would encourage them. From my side, yeah, as doctors, we hardly have any time, personal time for our families or personal time with our friends or time to enjoy life, as people call it. But but I would at least have 2 sons, and I would like one of them at least to come into this profession, at least.
So since you've just mentioned about work-life balance, and I'm sure it's very difficult in our profession to strike a balance. So how do you maintain your work-life balance?
I come to the hospital around 9 a.m. in the morning and work till 8 to 9 in the evening. Probably take a little break, 1 hour break for lunch in the afternoon. I try to give them time at least once or twice a week, go out with them, spend time with them. Very frequent outings, very small 3 to 4 hours schedules that we have, go outskirts or go for long drives and all. That is the way I try to make up for the time I lost during all the weekdays.
That's good. So sir, in this season we are seeing a lot of viral illness. So do you think they are COVID mimicking, or how do you differentiate now?
Yeah. COVID has been on the downtrend in the last few weeks, but there are sporadic cases that we are seeing, occasional spurts during a few days, but that is not being sustained. There are a lot of viral infections now, considering the fact that it's been the rainy season now. Dengue is up there, a lot of diarrheal illnesses are there, and there's a co-infection of COVID and dengue. A lot of cases, there's a co-infection of COVID and dengue, where there is a diagnostic as well as a management issue here, because the treatment of both the conditions are entirely different. Patients with dengue, especially with the dengue shock or dengue hemorrhagic fever, need a lot of fluid support and if necessary platelet transfusions and all, and they may not need steroids. But patients with advanced COVID with ARDS would need a steroid. So a patient with lung injury, with a co-infection with the COVID and dengue, there is always a perplexing diagnostic as well as a treatment issue, because steroid with COVID lung injury is always useful and it's mandatory to use that. But if we use that in a patient with dengue, it could, flare up this illness. So the diagnostic confusion is always there in patients. This is a problem that we are contending with now, because there's a lot of co-infection that is being seen now, and a lot of other viruses that are being seen now, like respiratory viruses, minor coryzas are there, and post-vaccination breakthrough infections of COVID, which are very mild in fact, and they mimic other viral infections. Diarrheal illnesses and salmonellosis is very frequently being seen now.
So, sir, talking about vaccinations, do you recommend booster vaccine for COVID infections?
There is not much of data on the role of booster vaccination in COVID, and there's been a lot of hullabaloo in the media regarding booster vaccination, saying that it's just a pharma trick to make more money. But we've been going through a lot of data regarding boosters and how it could help. And I found that giving boosters, especially in the general population in India, where there's a lot of financial constraint and logistical issue, it's not a joke. Vaccinating 1.3 to 1.4 billion people, a booster shot. I mean, we could not even complete the second dose of vaccination for most of the population. So thinking about booster is probably in India is very far-fetched when there is not much of data here. But probably healthcare workers like doctors and paramedics and the older people who have risk factors or structural lung diseases, giving boosters could help. But as of now, there is no hard data to support this, that booster could definitely decrease the incidence of COVID in this set of people.
So, sir, we all know that you're a fitness freak. So, what motivated you to become one?
None. I like to be fit. I work out every day, play, and being fit and being athletic actually makes you feel good. And if I work out in the morning, I feel good the whole day. If I miss my workout any particular day, you feel dull the whole day. The day goes bad. I know. It's just a feeling maybe.
So, what general precautions you would like to advise to the general public out there as far as viral illness in this season are concerned?
Every year during the rainy season, we see a spurt of dengue and other viruses. Basically, the main problem is lack of sanitation, lack of poor hygiene, and the lot of dirt around the places that we see. That is what is causing these mosquitoes to breed and diseases like dengue and other vector-borne diseases to crop up during these seasons. So the main problem or the main thing that we should do is maintain good hand hygiene and oral hygiene and cleanliness around our residential places, trying to avoid stagnant water and dirty spaces around our residential places and in the places that we live. And for COVID, of course, social distancing and wearing a mask is very important during these seasons, but other viral illnesses can largely be prevented. If you can see last year when we had a complete lockdown during COVID, when everybody was locked up at home, we hardly had any cases of dengue. What is the reason? We had enormous rains, probably the highest rainfall was recorded last year. In spite of that, probably we would have seen dengue cases in single digits in our place. On the other hand, every year we see hundreds and thousands of cases. Why? Because we were all locked up and there was hardly any chance to contaminate our areas, and that is what prevented the breeding of mosquitoes and no virals last year, of course, except for this pandemic. So therein lies the answer. We should keep ourselves and our localities clean, and that we take most of the problem. We take care of most of the problems there.
So that's something positive about the lockdown, as you just mentioned. So, sir, in your personal clinical experience, was there any incident which changed your perspective towards practicing medicine?
We see patients across the economic and social spectra, all through. We see the poorest, the richest, and the middle class. We cater across all segments. I found that, yeah, money is not the thing that gives us a kick in this profession. I can tell you an incident where a patient had come, a villager, if I remember, a tribal guy, had come with a snake bite, was ventilated, had renal failure, bad cellulitis, operated for that, recovered. And from what his family told me, he sold most of his land to pay the bills. And that guy still comes to me, and very innocent chap. Okay, he uneducated. He comes. He doesn't even sit on the examination stool. He sits down on the floor. I tell him, "Arey, how can I examine you if you sit on the floor?" He's so scared to even sit beside us. And with that poverty, every time he comes to me, every month, or he's a diabetic incidentally, every month or every 2 months he comes to me, he gets a box of sweets or whatever that he grows in his farm and all. He can't afford it, but still he gets that. I mean, it is the gratitude and the goodwill and the happiness and the smile of those patients, of these sort of people, that drives me on. It's not the money or the professional fee or whatever that you get that really drives us on. Yeah, that's important, but end of the day, you want to sleep happily. These are things that, these are the sort of people and the sort of smiles and the gratitude and the thanks that we get from the families that drives us on, and wants to do more for the people and the society.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why it's considered as a noble profession, and these things matters in the long run. So on a lighter note, if not a doctor, what profession you would have been into?
My father was a lawyer. Probably he would have dragged me into that. Yeah, my father was the additional advocate general of the state, so I was scared of him basically, so I couldn't really get into his profession. It was my mom who really influenced me.
So in this season, sir, what vaccines you would like to recommend to the elderly group of population?
In our universal immunization schedule, we complete most of the vaccinations during the childhood. But there are a set of people more than 55 with comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension, underlying cancers, HIV, basically people who are immunosuppressed. These set of people are recommended a few vaccines every year if necessary. Patients with or people with structural lung disease, diabetics and all are recommended flu vaccines every year. We are having a lot of pentavalent vaccines or multivalent vaccines in the pharmacies, and these vaccines take care of most of the influenza viruses and most of the viruses that cause flu and lung injuries during these wet seasons and the cold season, starting from July up till December, Jan. So flu vaccine for these patients is always recommended, and pneumococcal vaccines, especially for patients who are more than 60, smokers, patients with COPD, asthma, diabetes and hypertension, heart disease, are recommended pneumococcal vaccines every year. And there are no other specific vaccines that need to be given to these people. And of course, we talked about the COVID boosters and all a while back, but these two vaccines should be mandatory, should be made mandatory for people who are more than 60.
So sir, before concluding this session, what message you would like to give to the upcoming doctors who want to choose this profession?
There's an old adage which says doctors are donkeys, not horses. It's very right. People are kids, students who are willing to work very hard, do donkey's work, and yeah, we should have a concern for the society, be sympathetic to the people. It's not money that we are looking at. I mean, I look at it as a byproduct of the passion that we have towards a profession. So work hard, be passionate about this profession, ready to serve people, the society, be sympathetic towards them. Money would come. That's not everything, but the smile that we get from a patient who comes out of the ICU, or when we operate, or literally goes to the deathbed and comes back, that is what should drive us on. So in end of the day, that is what as doctors we should look at, and that is what helps us sleep very happy night all through.
Thank you, sir, for having you here, and it was wonderful talking to you.
Same here.
So this brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you all for watching us, and do join us for the next week as well. Thank you and stay safe.